Hello everyone, Joey Walker here with the Dupuy team at Keller Williams West Sound, and we just wrapped up an inspection here at our new a new condo that we got under wraps right here in Paulsville, Washington at the Grand Kirk condominiums in downtown Paulsville. Today's inspection, we're going to be working with Chad Haddow over with CCH Inspections. I've been working with Chad now for a few years. Really great inspector to work with, so super excited to go through this one and check it out.
All right, just inspecting our bathroom right now. Our big things in here, obviously making sure all our plumbing fixtures are okay, checking like our toilets are bolted tight. Anytime we have these sink basins that are freestanding, we'll make sure they're secured to the wall, running all our plumbing, checking all that stuff, checking our drains, making sure they're, one, that they're not leaking, but two, that they're trapped properly. We don't have any issues with S-traps or poor venting on the plumbing. Checking in general if our material's in good shape, our tile floors, stuff like that. They've been sealing their edges. They're caulking where they need to. Showers, we always want to check, make sure again our valves are operating properly. Hot's on the hot side, cold's on the cold. We're not leaking. Our shower arm for the shower head's nice and secure in the wall. No damage to the plumbing. Checking our drain, make sure we're getting good flow. No issues of backing up. Ventilation, making sure our fans are turning on and ventilating properly. So just going step by step, making sure we cover all our bases. And we like to document everything, making sure that we're keeping notes on everything we check. All right. We'll let that run for a while so we can flow some water through the drain, make sure we're not getting backed up. And then of course, everywhere we go to, we're checking door swings, making sure we're getting good latching, stuff like that. Any outlets we can access, we like to check for grounding polarity, make sure there's no wiring issues. So yeah, checking it all out, room by room. All right, we'll head back to our back room here. Always looking for our smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, making sure that they have them on each level. Smoke detectors in all our rooms. So we have an older banister here. And one thing we'll notice is the spacing here is too wide for current code. We have a 6-inch spacing, whereas current compliance would be you can't allow a 4-inch sphere or larger to pass through, and that's for kids basically being able to climb through here. So we'll make a note on a report for that could be a safety issue for small children. Otherwise, just make sure it's nice and secure, which it is. All right, moving, we have our ensuite here. We'll check out. Get my lights on, I'll get some more photos real quick of our room. I like to document the rooms as I go through them too, because especially on something like this where our buyer is out of state, we want to make sure that they know we got everything checked out for them. Making sure our hot's on the hot side. Check our plumbing beneath, make sure we don't have any leaks, anything going on down here. Everything looks like it's plumbed well. If I'm able to, if it's like a white PVC drain pipe, I'll put my flashlight up against it, be able to see inside if we're getting sedimentation or poor flow. Try and take a look if I can. Then we'll spot check our hot water throughout the house, make sure that there's no weird issues going on. Run some cold through that too. All right, check all our door swings again wherever we have them. Make sure everything's operating well. Get in here and check our shower head. I love our natural stone floor here. So since I can't really activate this, stay too dry, I'll make sure the shower head's nice and secure real quick. Get our hot on. And once I verify our hot's on the hot side, go ahead and flip around, make sure our cold's working well. Then we'll just let that run for a bit, make sure that, again, the drain's operating well. And I like to, a lot of inspectors will go home and do their reports in the evening at home or at the end of the day. I like to work on them as I inspect. It just makes them more accurate because I'm noting things immediately as I come across them. And it also helps the client and realtor out, gets them results a little quicker. So
one thing, as in this business, we get to look at various inspection reports from all different types of inspectors. And just like in every sort of service industry, not everyone's the same. So we really want to make sure we have an inspection that's extremely thorough.
looking at our general drywall, especially our edges, our perimeters, we want to make sure there's no obvious issues. We've got our smoke detector looking good. We'll check our, again, checking our door swings, closet spaces. Mainly just looking at the drywall and the closet spaces, make sure there's no, especially on exterior walls, making sure there's no signs of water staining or something. This one has a little outlet up here, so we'll take a look at it. All right. Oh gosh, probably 3-4 years now, I'd say. It's been working together a bit. All over the Puget Sound. Done stuff as far north as Burien and Federal Way, and then obviously out here in Paulsbo, making a little trip for them. So always happy to make the drive though. Try and take care of his clients best I can. Let's turn up our thermostats so we can test those out. Make sure all our heaters are working well. So let that kick on and run for a bit and we'll check it. Nice skylight, seal's looking good. We won't unplug their router and mess with that. Check our windows, make sure all our windows are operating well. All right, working beautifully. Nice Milgard windows, local company, so still fairly easy to get components for if you need. Check our furnace, or just make sure we're blowing out hot air. It's actually heating up, and it is. Excellent. We'll let that run for a little bit. Just make sure it doesn't hit a thermal overload or anything. Now let's turn off our closet light. Come back and turn off our fan a little later.
Well, we're here in Paulsbo, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to talk about the Paulsbo market locally here. Generally, I really focus and research all throughout the Kitsap County, from the top of Hansville down to the southern tip of Port Orchard. But what we are in Kitsap County especially in, is what we call a bifurcated market. Okay, so we essentially have two separate real estate markets here in Kitsap County. We have homes that are above 500,000. Their stats, their numbers are very different as far as how long they stay on market. Do homes sell for at a discount or at a premium, and just and the price point compared to homes below 500,000. Okay, so primarily here in Paulsbo, homes are above 500,000. One, while we're dealing with low inventory everywhere, Paulsbo especially has a very low inventory issue, which brings up its prices. Okay, that and it's a desired area with not as many new constructions going on. So when a home does hit the market here, it typically goes for a higher premium than, say, homes maybe down in Bremerton or Port Orchard, where we have more inventory to offer. So this particular condo here kind of fits that bill because it was in the upper price range. We're above $900,000, but it's very unique in that there was no real comps, comparables. So homes, that's how we determine the price of homes, is comparing them to other homes that sold. We have an open free market here, so prices can fluctuate. There's no real rules in real estate. But with this particular condo, it's really a one of one. It's a church, downtown Paulsbo, and so we had to really work back and forth with the seller to figure out what is a price that was fair for both sides. So we were able to manage that. But basically, if you're looking for a home here in Paulsbo, prepare to be over $500,000. Homes will typically last for 25 to 30 days on average, and typically they will sell at a premium. And a premium, I mean about 1 or 2% over original list price, is what the average home selling for here in Paulsbo.
All right, take a look at our electrical panel. Main floor bedroom office. Floor bedroom office. Okay. Take a look. Checking for our age and style of breaker panel. Make sure it's not one that has known issues with failures. This one's a Cutler Hammer, very common brand. Easy to get updated breakers for this panel. It's well labeled. We'll take a look inside and see how our wiring is looking inside. Home inspection, it's not required to remove the panel cover. And some inspectors won't because it can be dangerous, but I just try and use my best judgment, and I also have life insurance, so you know, it's all good. Once I get this panel cover off. Okay, set this down without scratching anything. All right, so looking in here, I mean, we're not an electrician as a home inspector, but we're looking for any obvious defects, wires that are coming out of the lug, or any sign that we're having double lugging where they're putting multiple wires into one breaker where it's not rated for it. Some breakers are, so you always want to check the writing if you see it. And we're just taking a look, making sure everything's in where it is. We're not required to check wire gauge compared to amperage on breakers, but if there's something obvious where they're using too small of a wire on an overrated breaker, we'll make a note on it. Looking pretty good though. Electrical's nice and clean. All modern copper wiring. Always looking for things like aluminum single branch wiring or older knob and tube wiring that could have issues. So just making sure everything's tight in there. It's rare, but sometimes I'll pull on a wire and it'll just slip right out because it hadn't been torqued down properly or torqued at all. So just checking to make sure, because then that wire's loose. It has the ability to expand, contract, or vibrate and arc and spark and create heat and cause a fire. So you want it nice and tight in there so you don't have any of those issues. We don't want arcing and sparking. It's a fun thing about inspections. You always see cool stuff and get ideas you never would have thought of before. For the next home I build, I've gotten some design ideas that I would definitely integrate. Things I've seen lately that are just genius is like mounting the dishwasher up in a wall cabinet so it's not on the ground where it normally is, so you can get into it and access it easier. I've seen that on some newer high-end kitchens, and it just makes so much sense to have that thing mounted a few inches off the ground, so it's when you open it's all right there. It's like, gosh, that's so easy to do when you're designing a kitchen, and makes usability. So I always look for usability features like that, trying to get ideas. But I also spend a lot of time on YouTube and researching building science and advanced building techniques. So I get a lot of ideas off YouTube, seeing, you know, more cutting edge building ideas or new design ideas. So, but occasionally I'll come across a house and just be like, gosh, that is genius. Just add it to my notes of things for when I do my next build. All right, and then I always like to document that I put everything back just like I found it, in case you never know, another inspector or someone else comes by and does something and messes it up. We want to know when we left, everything was just like when we came across it. We'll go later, I'll look for the main service disconnect outside at the meter head so I can see the amperage that they're feeding this panel, since it's not indicated here, just to make sure what it has for service. While I was doing IT and safety for a large concrete company, we did multi-level parking garages, post-tension concrete slabs, things like that. And then when '08 came and the downturn slowed everything down, I had to leave to find something else. And so I kind of helped out a couple buddies, and then eventually just started my own general contracting business. I'd always been around construction. My dad had built, you know, homes we'd grown up in, and always just been around it. And so I started doing that, and I focused heavily on the repo market. I worked with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Wells Fargo, a bunch of banks for helping fix up repossessed homes, get them ready for market again. And so I was really busy then during the economic downturn because there was just a ton of work. And I did that for several years, and then I became the building inspector for the city of University Place, which was a great job because I knew code from construction, but I got to learn why the code is the way it is from the other side, which is really educational, of knowing some things in code are really important and some things the code the way it was done, and then maybe not so important anymore. So especially on an inspection like this, I can point out things to someone like, hey, this doesn't meet code. This is why. It's not the biggest of issues, or this doesn't meet code. This is why you really should change it. So that was great education, but it was hard to work at the city 8 to 5 every day. And then also I have 3 little kids and I like to help volunteer at the school when I can. My wife and I help teach art for the kindergarten, 1st and 3rd graders and things like that. And so I eventually transitioned to just doing home inspections and doing this full time, so I can schedule around my kids a little more. So, and it's a great job. I really like meeting like first time home buyers and having that opportunity to talk to them about their home and educate them about it and just tell them what they need to know to keep everything working well. It's kind of fun.
So one question I get a lot from clients that are in a competitive situation and they really, really want to win the offer, get the home, is should I get my inspection? I mean, the place looks great. Maybe it's a new construction. I'm not seeing any sort of red flags. Maybe I can just waive my inspection. We at the Dupuy team, especially myself, we really, really advise you always get your inspections, because you never know what could be hidden. There's been multiple times where on the superficial surface here, things look great, but once we dig in deeper, we start to uncover some different layers of the onion. So always get your inspections. Even sometimes there's properties that are on the market that have already had an inspection done by the seller, which is great. What they're trying to do is entice offers to come in with waived inspections. It doesn't mean necessarily that they're trying to hide anything, but again, as a buyer, you really want to protect yourself, do your due diligence, and get your own inspection. For all we know, the inspector is the seller's brother, and oops, they forgot about this massive issue that's going on. Just forgot about it. So always get your inspections regardless of the situation.
Like location of where in the house it was, and because you get so many inspectors that just use these cheap point and shoots and snap a picture real quick and then write a note later. But my thing is, I want it to be, when you view my report, like for this drain that's leaking right at the sink basin, I'll have a close-up of it so it's obvious what the problem is, but also take a further back macro view so you can see like, oh, it's right in this bathroom right there. So even if, because I'll always write a description of where it is, but all the time they'll call me and say like, well, where is it? And the photo solves all problems. So that education as a photographer, just, I think it helps a lot compared to some other inspectors, just because it helps whoever's doing the repair or the homeowner buying it. They can be like, oh, okay, I see what that is, and I can handle that, or I know who to call for that now. So it definitely helps having that background, I think, just to be able to convey the information better to the client, which is, my main job is just to convey the condition of the home and make sure they know they're making an educated decision. But again, that's an easy fix. So make a quick note. And again, I like to get that kind of wider shot, so even if someone doesn't read the description, they're going to know right away from looking at my photo right where it is to fix it if they send a handyman or someone to take care of it. Okay. And again, be able to work on my report as I go. It maybe adds 10-15 minutes to my inspection process compared to other inspectors, but again, that client's not waiting till tomorrow morning to get the report, and I'm also not sitting at my computer after 3 inspections that day with 1,500 photos trying to look through and remember what all the defects were and what exactly I was looking at. Whereas with the software on my phone, in the company that I use, I've worked directly with them to make changes. I'll email them ideas, and they're very responsive about making adjustments to their software. And it's great to be able to just input things immediately and have it accurate, and then have it ready for the client right away. Check our shower arm. We got our interesting little flex shower arm. Still pretty secure in the wall though, so that's good. Again, make sure our hot's on the hot side. It's not really warming up. I have a feeling their scald guard feature, you see how it shuts off in mid-span, and I go a little further now, it's at full hot. We head back down and we get to cold and then we're off. So not really a big deal because you're still going to get to the hot and the appropriate. It's just if you go past it, you can shut it off again. It still stops, but I'll make a note about it, but it's not a big deal from a user perspective. And then we'll test that drain out. So we'll make just a note on that valve that our stops aren't correct. But again, not the end of the world. The shower is perfectly usable for the buyer to move in with and operate, and it's not a danger or anything for scalding. Check our door swing. Okay. All right, heading in our kitchen. We've already run our dishwasher, so we can make sure that there's no issues with indications of leaking. Make sure it's drained out properly inside. Looking good, no issue with the interior tub. Looked like it operated well. We'll leave it open too, just to air out. So the house will typically be sitting empty for a few weeks. We don't want it sealed up and wet and getting musty in there. So I like to leave those open. Same with the washing machine after I've run them. Again, we're checking for that hot being on the hot side of the valve, and then checking our sink sprayer operation on a faucet like this with more features. Making sure, and then we'll go ahead and run that. And then I got a disposer here, so I'll look for my switch. Sounds like it's operating well. Overhead. Check our plumbing underneath, make sure it's looking good. Excellent. Nice and dry. Perfect, and again, looking nice and dry under our dishwasher, no indication we're having issues. Check our hot water temps, the sink. Hot water's working well. Okay. Check our range vent. Looking to see whether our exhaust fan is exhausting to the exterior of the home or if it's recirculating back into the room. So like this particular range hood recirculates back into the room, which definitely meets code. It's just one of those things, if I'm working with a buyer, I'll usually ask, if they do a lot of cooking, then sometimes it's good to see if there's an option to vent these to the exterior. Sometimes in a unit like this, it's gonna be pretty difficult to do, just because we have neighboring units we can't go through, and we're kind of middle framing here. We can't get to the exterior very easy. So, but this definitely meets code. There's nothing functionally wrong with it. And I checked the microwave earlier. It was operating well. Turn that down so you can hear me better. Turn this off. We'll check our plumbing underneath again just one more time, make sure it stayed nice and dry after extended running. That looks good, no issues. Check our range, make sure it's operating well. I'm sure nothing's inside there before we kick it on. While that heats up, we'll check our fridge and freezer temps. Okay. Check all our outlets in this room too. Just again, checking for grounding, polarity issues, anything like that. Test and reset GFCIs when possible. As long as we know it's attached to them, we never want to cause issues with their personal appliances or computer systems at home. So want to make sure we're staying safe when we test those. Not messing up the homeowner's stuff. All right, and then I always like to make doubly sure everything's off because realtors are always paranoid that everything gets turned off and don't want to have to drive back out a couple hours later just to check if a range was turned off. Then we'll go through our rooms. Again, we'll crank our heat up here. So, I like to document where it was when I started, and then that way I know where to set it back at when I'm done. That on. Looking for any outlets we can see to access. Fireplace. Oh, this is for our awning. Excellent. Check this operation out. Items like this on the exterior, like awnings, aren't necessarily part of a normal home inspection, but if the owner's left the remote and we're able to find it, it doesn't do any harm to check it out and make sure it's working well. Got an excellent awning system here. I'm sure it'd do fantastic in the summer for cutting the heat down. All right, we'll go out and take a look. Very nice. Oh yeah, absolutely. We're not really worried about the exterior so much because these things are covered by the HOA, but again, since it is a big safety issue, I like to check our railings for spacing. You know, something like this. Small children, even small pets, it can be a bit of a danger to have this spacing. So we'll make sure to indicate that in the report, just so they have an idea. And then again, kind of a nice area. I mean, if you have larger pets, they're probably not going to fit through, so depending on the size of your cat, might not be an issue. Otherwise, looking good out here. Excellent.
Next steps after this, we just had our inspection. We're going to go ahead and make sure that if there's anything that the buyers want repaired or fixed, we're going to go ahead and talk about that, so let's get through that. And then appraisal is the next little hurdle that we always have to get over before we hit the closing table. So again, thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you on the next one.